When you hear the word genie, you likely picture a friendly, wish-granting spirit in a magic lamp. This blue genie trope is a massive departure from their true origins. Long before the modern sanitized stories, pre-Islamic desert lore spoke of something entirely different. These were the Djinn, terrifying entities forged not from earth or clay, but from a smokeless fire. They existed in the deep desert, sharing the world with ancient Bedouins, yet inhabiting a parallel dimension. Unlike angels or demons, the Djinn have free will. They can be good, evil, or utterly indifferent to humanity. They are a hidden society. They eat, they sleep, they marry, and they eventually die. But crossing paths with them in the desolate wastes of Arabia was a traveler's greatest fear. To the ancient Arabs, the desert was a living, breathing entity, teeming with these unseen forces. There is no single type of Djinn. The hierarchy is complex, and the lower ranks are feral and dangerous. The Ghoul, for example, is a flesh-eating subclass of Djinn, known to haunt graveyards and desolate ruins. They lure travelers off the safe paths by shape-shifting into beautiful women or stranded wanderers. Then there are the Sila, tricksters and shapeshifters who delight in driving humans to madness. But the true nightmares of the desert were the Ifrit. Massive, cunning, and fiercely independent, the Ifrit are entities of pure power, drawn to violence and ruin. Legends say that Ifrits are born from the life force of murder victims, rising from the blood spilled on the sand. At the absolute top of the hierarchy sits the Marid, the oldest, largest, and most arrogant of the Djinn. The Marid are incredibly difficult to control, demanding immense willpower from the few sorcerers foolish enough to try. To protect themselves from these entities, the ancient Arabs relied on amulets, iron, and deep superstition. Iron was believed to be a grounding element, a material that disrupted the energetic, smokeless fire of a Djinn's form. They also believed Djinn loved to inhabit abandoned places, ruined cities, dry wells, and empty caves. Throwing a stone down a dark well without warning, the unseen inhabitants could invite a lethal curse. One of their most terrifying abilities was taking the form of everyday animals to spy on human settlements. Black dogs, snakes, and scorpions were deeply distrusted, often thought to be Djinn in disguise. If a snake was found in a home, it was warned 3 times to leave before being killed, lest its Djinn tribe seek violent revenge. According to ancient texts, only one human ever achieved absolute mastery over the Djinn, King Solomon. He commanded legions of Ifrit and Marid to construct magnificent monuments, temples, and palaces that no human could build. Those who rebelled against his absolute authority faced a terrifying punishment. Solomon sealed the most dangerous Marids inside these brass vessels with lead stoppers stamped with his mystic seal. He then ordered these sealed nightmares to be cast into the deepest trenches of the ocean. Even in death, Solomon's power held. He died leaning on his staff, and the Djinn continued their grueling labor, terrified to stop. It was only when a woodworm ate through his staff, causing his body to fall, that the Djinn realized they were free. Freed from their servitude, many fled to Mount Kaf, a legendary, mystical mountain range said to encircle the earth. The lore states that Mount Kaf is the true homeland of the Djinn, bathed in an eternal emerald glow. From these mystical heights, they would often fly up toward the heavens to eavesdrop on the angels and steal knowledge of the future. According to belief, shooting stars are actually divine missiles hurled by angels to chase away these eavesdropping Djinn. But those who remain on Earth pose a constant psychological threat. In Arabic, the word for crazy is Majnun. The literal translation of Majnun is hidden, or more accurately, possessed by a Djinn. Possession is rarely portrayed as a physical takeover, but rather a slow, parasitic draining of sanity. To combat this, ancient and modern communities across the Middle East and North Africa practice the Zar ritual. Zar is an exorcism not of banishment, but of negotiation. The practitioners must discover what the Djinn wants. The entity might demand a specific piece of gold jewelry, a certain type of clothing, or an animal sacrifice to appease it. Once the terms are met, the Djinn is pacified, though it rarely leaves the host entirely. It simply agrees to stop the torment. For centuries, this was the reality of the Djinn, a complex, terrifying ecology of entities sharing our world. But the Western world would experience a completely different, heavily sanitized version of these creatures. In 1704, Galen translated the 1001 Nights, known today as the Arabian Nights. To appeal to European aristocrats, the terrifying entities of pre-Islamic lore were rewritten. The concept of smokeless fire was replaced by a spirit tied to a lamp, forced to grant 3 wishes. The true nature of the Djinn, the feral Ghouls, the deceptive Sila, the destructive Ifrit, was buried beneath a fairy tale. But for those who still travel the deep deserts of the Middle East at night, they know the old stories aren't just fairy tales. Beyond the ancient desert sands, one of the most chilling concepts in Djinn lore is that you are never truly alone. In Middle Eastern mythology, every single human is born with a Qareen, a personal shadow double made of smokeless fire. The Qareen is not your guardian angel. It is an internal saboteur, constantly whispering doubts, paranoia, and dark impulses into your mind. It knows your deepest insecurities because it has been with you since your first breath. Because the Qareen is a reflection of your darker self, mirrors have always been viewed with extreme caution in Djinn folklore. Many traditional households still cover their mirrors with a cloth at night, believing they act as portals for the unseen. But the most universally terrifying encounter with the Djinn happens in the space between wakefulness and sleep. Across the Arab world, sleep paralysis is known as the Kaboos, a parasitic Djinn that sits directly on the chest of its victim. Science calls it a neurological glitch. Ancient wisdom calls it an attack by an entity feeding on your terror. The Djinn did not disappear when we built modern cities. They simply adapted to the concrete and the grid. They are drawn to places devoid of human life. Abandoned buildings and desolate structures are their modern domains. Urban explorers in places like Al Jazeera, Al Hamra, the famous ghost town of the UAE, often report unseen forces. Because Djinn are entities of raw energy and smokeless fire, they severely interfere with modern technology. Audio recorders left in these abandoned zones pick up chilling, distorted whispers in ancient, forgotten dialects. Protection against these modern encounters remains deeply rooted in ancient, protective magic. Sorcery involving the Djinn is strictly forbidden in most texts, yet the black markets of the occult still thrive. Desperate individuals pay dark magicians to bind a Djinn to a specific target, sending them a curse of madness or illness. These cursed talismans are often hidden in the victim's home, buried in a graveyard, or cast into the sea. To break the curse, the talisman must be found and carefully destroyed using salt, water, and specific incantations. The psychological toll of believing you are being hunted by the unseen can completely break a human mind. In some regions, patients exhibiting extreme schizophrenia are often taken to religious healers before they are ever taken to a doctor. But what if it's not purely psychological? What if the veil between our world and theirs is actually tearing? The sudden smell of burning sulfur or ozone in an empty room is often said to be the first warning sign. Unexplained cold spots, the feeling of being watched, and objects moving when you turn your back. The pre-Islamic Djinn were not fairy tales meant to comfort children. They were warnings meant to keep humans alive. Unlike angels, the Djinn are not immortal. They possess incredibly long lifespans, but eventually they age and die. In ancient lore, it was believed that you could sometimes hear the funeral wails of the Djinn echoing through deep desert canyons. Because they possess free will, the Djinn are also subject to final judgment at the end of time. The The righteous among them will find peace, but the malevolent Ifrits and deceptive Silas face an eternity of true fire. But until that day comes, they remain trapped here, sharing this earth with a humanity that has largely forgotten them. We build our cities higher, paving over the dunes, arrogant in our belief that we have conquered the desert. We believe our modern homes are sanctuaries, completely insulated from the ancient, unseen world. This is why traditional customs warn against throwing hot water down a drain or leaving a fire burning overnight. Unwittingly, you may be harming an entity that lives beneath your floorboards, inviting a terrifying retaliation. The pre-Islamic Djinn were not blue genies in lamps granting wishes. They were the explanation for madness, plague, and vanishing travelers. By turning them into a sanitized fairy tale, modern society stripped away our only defense, caution. But the desert remembers. The ancient sand holds the memories of the smokeless fire. There are still regions where travelers will not go, where the compass spins wildly and the air smells of burning ozone. In these forgotten places, the veil between our world and theirs is terrifyingly thin. If you ever find yourself alone in the deep desert and you hear your name called on the wind, do not answer. To acknowledge them is to invite them in. The lore of the Djinn is a testament to humanity's primal fear of the unknown, of the dark, and of the untamed wilderness. They are the ultimate embodiment of nature's indifference to mankind. We may have replaced their stories with Hollywood magic, but the entities of Smokeless Fire remain unchanged. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and stare into the dark corners of your room, remember that your shadow might not just be an absence of light. It might be a companion that has been waiting patiently for you to notice it. The Djinn are not gone. They are simply waiting in the hidden spaces, and once you know they are there, they know you are looking.